Hey everyone, Draco Magnius here for another bonus episode of Let's Play 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. In the last episode, we accidentally got the axe ending. In this one, we're going to get the true ending, because I looked it up. I did make some mistakes. The doors I went through was correct. However, I answered Seven's question, well, not his question, but I asked the wrong question to Seven, and that threw everything for a loop. Everything else I did was correct. You're supposed to get the bookmark from Santa. You're supposed to give it to Clover. And then there's one other thing you have to do in the what's it called? It's on the tip of my tongue right now. The wheel room. That. So that's the only real difference. I'll be cutting this here and speeding through. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I have to let you guys know. I had recorded 3 other bonus episodes that I had to delete. And would you like to know why? My microphone here, the blue snowball, kept unplugging itself, I guess from how I had it positioned the wire. And there was no audio for a good majority of those 3 bonus episodes that I recorded. Oh, but the problems don't end there. I was recording the final bonus episode, where we were finally going to get the true ending. Then my laptop decided it wanted to crash. For no reason. At all. I was just in the middle of it, about to finish one of the last puzzles, and then bang! Really loud noise, and blue screen saying, oh, you need to restart. And that really pissed me the fuck off. But now that's over, I don't have to worry about that, because we're starting from scratch. And it won't take too long. So, I will see you when we get back to something new. Okay, and here we are. Just as a refresher course, when you go into room 4, and you accept the Clover from Santa, one of the things you need to do is after you accept the Clover from Santa, when you go into the kitchen, and June brings up Ice 9, you're supposed to ask her about it. So you can say, do you know about Ice 9? Here. Do you know about Ice 9? And here's another thing I want to test. Since I technically already ran through this, can I skip these cutscenes too? This is important because I don't want to accidentally skip things. Ice 9. And apparently I can. Fuck. It's going to make things a little tricky then. Ice 9. Ice 9. Ice. Baby. Do. I'm sorry it had to be done. Even if only a few people get that reference, it still had to be done. Besides, the cold never bothered me anyway. Okay, I should stop referencing and move on. By the way, I hate the cold. Just ignore that last thing. I just did it for the reference. Suddenly, Seven's eyes shot open. That's it! I remember now! That woman! She's on this boat! That woman? Alice! Who's Alice? Come on, the woman who won't melt at room temperature! Question mark? It became clear to Seven that Junpei had no idea what he was talking about. He ran his hand across his face and took a deep breath. By the way, that did go very fast. I hit the fast forward button just to make 100% sure. Yeah, well, this is going to be more than a little frustrating to get through, but as long as I remember not to hit the button at certain points, I should be fine. You know how the Titanic sank on April 15th, 1912, right? Yeah. More than 1,500 people died. Worst maritime accident in history. What about it? Did you hear about the boat that was sent to collect the dead bodies? I think that was the RMS Carpathia, right? It was a cruise liner, just like the Titanic. No. That was the ship that picked up the survivors. The ship that collected the dead bodies was the CS Mackay-Bennett. Mackay-Bennett. The Mackay-Bennett showed up on April 17th, 2 days after the accident. It set out from Halifax, a port in Canada, and recovered 306 bodies. The Atlantic that far north was really cold. It would have to be for there to be icebergs and stuff. Anyway, the bodies they pulled out of the water were frozen solid. This isn't a very nice story. So what happened next? Well, they say that the Mackay-Bennett recovered something more than just dead bodies. There were various bits of stuff floating around in the water, things the drowned had carried with them, or stuff dislodged as the ship sank. One of the things they found was a coffin. A coffin? Yeah, a wooden one. The craftsman who made it must have been pretty skilled. It wasn't just a wooden coffin, it was all wood. There were no nails or reinforcements, and there were no gaps in the wood anywhere. It was airtight. The crew got pretty curious about what might be inside it, and opened it up. They had to get a wedge and hammer it open, so it was well made. Inside, they found a woman. Or, I guess you could say, they found the dead body of a woman. Her hair was thick and black, and her skin was deep brown, and didn't show any signs of age or decomposition. They say that she looked gorgeous, like a goddess. She was obviously dead, but everyone who looked at her said she just looked like she was sleeping. Her skin was so lifelike, she looked like she might wake up any minute. She didn't, though. Like the rest of the bodies they found, she was frozen solid. Eventually, the Mackay-Bennett finished the search and returned to Halifax. The 306 bodies were unloaded and taken ashore. Does that include her body? However, it was warm enough that they began to melt. They say that the stink was horrible. But there was one body that didn't thaw. The girl in the coffin? That wasn't a question. The girl in the coffin. That's right. Everybody thought for sure she'd melt and start to rot like the rest of them eventually. But weeks passed, and nothing happened. Then a month had passed, and another, and it was summer, and she was still frozen solid. After a while, people started to say she was some sort of miracle. If corpses not melting is a miracle, then yes, I guess. Rumors about the girl started to spread, and the people came to visit Halifax from all over. After a while, people started to call her All Ice. Alice. Of course, those rumors didn't last long. Why? Well, she up and disappeared. One day Alice was there, the next day she wasn't. They said someone snuck in where they were keeping her and stole the body. With the body gone, the rumors followed pretty quickly. And after a while, no one remembered her. You might be able to find something about her if you could find a newspaper from back then, but that's about it. Wait. You just said that she was on this boat. Yeah, I did. Alice has got to be somewhere on this ship. Now why the hell would you say something like that? 'Cause I know. And just what is it you know? What happened to Alice after she was stolen? Junpei gulped. Alright, tell me, what happened to Alice? Seven nodded slowly, and took on the look of a man recalling something long buried. Well, around that time, the word was that there was a thriving black market in New York. I mean, I'm sure there still is, but this was special. All millionaires from all over the world. I've heard that Alice went up for auction there. The person who won the auction was Lord Dashiell Gordian. You've heard that name before, right? Yeah, you explained him before we went in this room, actually. On your theory that this was the gigantic that we were on. Sir Gordian. Isn't he the guy who bought the gigantic, the Titanic's sister ship? Yeah, that's him. Although, I guess he hadn't done that yet. What do you mean? Gordian brought Alice in 1912. Then 4 years later, in 1916, he bought the Gigantic. He had hid Alice somewhere on the Gigantic, but nobody knows where. He died in 1931, and apparently he died without ever telling anyone where Alice was hidden. However, what? Well, he did have one close friend who asked him, "Where is Alice?" And he said, "But you just told me you didn't..." Whatever. Cause that's something someone asks their close friend out of sheer random chance. "Hey, by the way, buddy, what's going on? Where'd you hide that corpse you bought from that black market deal, huh? Where is she? I saw her around here a while ago, but now she's just not here anymore. What happened?" Alice sleeps in a chamber past the forest of knowledge beneath the navel of the Gigantic. The hell is that? Well, I mean, if we think logically, a forest of knowledge must be like a library or something. It's where you keep books. Books have knowledge. That just makes sense, really. Actually, no. No, Junpei. There's a forest somewhere in this ship where instead of trees sprouting, it's words and knowledge just sprouting from the ground and growing into big knowledge trees. Some kind of riddle? Your guess is as good as mine. I thought my guess was pretty good, but whatever. Seven threw his hands up in defeat. So that's it. Whatever you think, I believe it. She's hidden somewhere on the Gigantic. Other words, she's hidden somewhere on this ship. Before Junpei could dispute Seven's rather bizarre claim, they heard Clover's voice from the door. She did not sound pleased. "Hey! What are you two doing over there? Stop wasting time and get over here!" Okay, we're coming. Ugh! Seven looked at Junpei. "Yeah, so, anyway, that's the story. It might be useful someday. Don't forget it, probably when we pick up the all-ice book in the, Captain's Quarters/Wheelhouse." With that cryptic remark, he turned and left the room. Junpei was left behind to ponder what he'd just heard. He tried to remember what June had told him earlier. That mummy wasn't just a normal mummy. They say that she was frozen. The story says that from the time of its discovery all the way through to when it got put on the Titanic, and even though it was carried through the desert, her body never melted. Was that Egyptian priestess Alice? Had the water in her body become Ice 9? Well, logic would dictate. No, that's nuts. There's no way somebody like that could exist. Junpei shook his head, trying desperately to clear it, and followed Seven to the operating room where Clover was waiting. Okay, and that does it for that new cutscene. I will meet you again when we get to the next one, which is probably going to be in the wheelhouse when we pick up the book. Actually, there might be one before that now that I think about it. I just forget how the progression of events really, plays out. I'll be right... Okay, and we're back, and here's something new. If we hit one of the letters on the screens here... Junpei snorted with grim humor from the second time he'd come into the room. The 4 screens along the bottom had a single letter, each spelling out 0. Junpei felt as though he was being mocked. The real villain was somewhere laughing at him. What do you think? He turned to Clover, who was standing next to him. Her voice was almost too low to hear. Nothing. It seemed that she cared about little. Of course, Junpei could hardly blame her. Given the strain she was surely under, Junpei was somewhat surprised she had responded at all. Still, he had to ask. He gestured toward the corpse. What about him? Do you think that's really 0? Clover shook her head weakly. There's no way that's him. Didn't I tell you already? 0 is one of us. Yeah, right. Well, even if he wasn't one of us, there's no way that man could be Zero. Question mark? Don't you get it? The letters that spell out Zero on the TV screen, the captain's clothes he's got on, and of course the bracelet with a 0 on it. It's too obvious. Look, look! This is Zero! Right here! This dead body is Zero! Doesn't that seem kind of funny to you?
You're right. Only an idiot wouldn't see through something like that.
No, that's not the point. I'm not trying to make fun of them for thinking a trick like this would work. I'm sure they didn't think it would work. Which makes me wonder, why did they do it? I think this is a challenge. A challenge from the person who's really behind all of this. He's making fun of us. Question mark? Don't you get it? If whoever killed this guy really wanted us to think this corpse was Zero, he'd never have put the bracelet on him. Walking about with a Zero bracelet would be like hanging a sign around your neck that said, "I did it." Anyone with a brain would be able to see that guy would be able to see that this guy is supposed to look like everything Zero is supposed to be. Just like we did. The killer must have known we wouldn't think he was Zero and put the bracelet on him anyway. Do you know why?
Why?
Like I said, he's mocking us. Too bad, suckers! This isn't Zero! It's the same bad joke a lot of criminals like to play. They just sit back and watch people run in circles. Look, here I am! What's wrong, guys? Come on, catch me if you can!
That's really twisted. But it almost seems kind of childish.
Yeah, you're right. It is childish. It's like it's just a game to whoever this person is. That's what seems funny to me. Junpei bent down next to the corpse. Alright, let's get back to the point. Who killed this man?
I don't know.
And what is this guy's deal? Who is he?
How would I know that? If I knew anything, I would have told you.
You have no idea who he is?
Why would I?
Junpei sat back on his haunches and thought. You should check to see if he's got anything on him that might tell us who he is. Give me a hand here, Clover.
What?
You've got to flip him over. How else are we going to search his pockets? Clover didn't move. Junpei had no choice but to move the body on his own. He grabbed a hold of an area not completely covered in blood and shoved. Yeah, that'd be really awkward if he was covered in blood when he got back to the others. It took a moment, but eventually Junpei felt the man's bulk begin to shift. But just as it did, something fell from the man's left wrist. The bracelet with a 0 on the face. Lastly, let us discuss how to remove the bracelets. There are only 2 ways to do so. 1. You escape from this ship. 2. Your heart rate reaches 0. In other words, once the bracelet is taken outside the confines of the ship, or detects its wearer's heartbeat has fallen to 0, it will shut down automatically. Junpei stared at the bracelet. This man, he's dead, isn't he?
Huh?
No, it's just, I guess I didn't really think about it until right now. If his bracelet's off, that means he's dead.
Well, it's pretty obvious that he's dead. You don't really need to look at his bracelet to figure out that he's dead.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It is pretty obvious. He looks a lot better than the other bodies we've seen, though, you know? I mean, if there wasn't all this blood, he'd almost look like he was still alive. I mean, I know it's kind of a messed up thing to say, but he kind of has it better, you know? Dying from a bomb going off inside you? I mean, that's just... Some of Snake's bones went right through the skin. I think the explosion must have thrown him against a wall or something. There was a broken bone just sticking out of his left arm. Suddenly, Junpei realized what he was saying. How could he have been so cruel? He clapped his hands over his mouth. But it was already too late. He turned to look at Clover. She was glaring at him furiously.
What did you just say?
Her words sounded cold. Oh, that wasn't the right inflection. My mistake. Let me try this again.
What did you just say?
He knew an apology could hardly atone for what he'd done, but he tried anyway. Oh, man. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I really don't know what I was thinking. I mean...
No! That's not what I'm talking about! What did you say about his arm?
Arm?
Yes, his left arm! You said it, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I did, but... I mean, didn't you see it too?
Of course not! I could barely look at him!
Clover took a quick, deep breath.
Are you sure it was his left arm?
Junpei thought back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
And he had a broken bone, right?
For those of you who don't remember, in this particular plot line, Junpei didn't learn from Clover that her brother has a prosthetic left arm. At least not yet, anyway. He would have learned it had he and her gone into room 8, but instead they went to room 7. So Junpei has no clue about the prosthetic arm. So it's totally reasonable that he would be dumbstruck here. Did I already read that? I'll read it again just to be safe.
And he had a broken bone, right?
What the hell are you getting at here?
Just shut up and answer me!
She shoved her face closer to his. He could see the fire in her eyes. Junpei winced and swallowed. Yeah, he did. It was pretty bad, too. The bone was sticking out of the arm. No sooner were the words out of his mouth than Clover's expression changed. Suddenly, she was crying. Junpei wasn't sure what to do.
Thank you.
It was close to the last thing he had expected to hear. Junpei had no idea what just happened. He didn't think he'd done anything worthy of thanks, and he couldn't understand why she would have chosen that moment to begin crying. So he simply stood there, confused.
Thank you, Junpei.
She thanked him again, and then something even stranger happened. Clover threw herself into Junpei's surprised arms. Hey! What's going on with you?
I'm sorry. It's just... I'm so happy.
Why?
The body in the shower room. It isn't his. It isn't my brother.
Huh?
It's not Snake.
Why on earth would you think that?
Because his left arm is...
She stopped herself.
I'm sorry. I really shouldn't be talking about this.
Junpei decided it would be prudent not to press her for any more information. If she did not wish to tell him, she certainly had a reason for doing so. Perhaps more importantly, however, if Clover was so certain, then she was likely right. That meant the body in the shower room wasn't Snake. It wasn't much, but that knowledge lifted some of the weight from Junpei's heart.
He's still alive. I'm so happy.
Tears shone in her eyes. Those tears melted Junpei's heart. As she cried, she had pushed herself up against his chest like a child. Junpei put his arms around her and held her tight.
Junpei, you were right.
Question mark?
No matter what happens, you can never lose hope. You have to remember what's most important, and that's to have faith and to have love. If you can remember all those, that'll bring you good luck.
Clover reached into her pocket and pulled something out. It was the laminated bookmark with a 4-leaf clover.
I only made it here because you gave me this. I was suspicious of everyone, and I was angry and miserable. But because I had this 4-leaf clover, because of what you said to me,
Junpei hadn't thought his words would have such an effect on her. Her words were making him feel a little awkward.
so much, Junpei.
She looked up at him. He scratched his nose and pretended to notice something interesting somewhere else in the room. If you really want to thank somebody, you should be thanking Santa.
Santa? Why?
Well, he was the one who gave me that thing. And the words for each leaf, I got that from him too. Question mark? Then suddenly, Clover broke away from Junpei. Huh? He looked confused. He hadn't thought she'd react that poorly. Clover began to pace around the room. 6 steps to the left, 6 steps to the right, another 6 to the left, and then she stopped.
Did Santa really tell you those things?
Her eyes were serious, but not angry. Yeah, he did. Did I, say something wrong?
Oh, no, not at all. In fact, this could be really good news. I think.
You think?
Santa knew about the words and the clover. The only people who should know about that are the other subjects.
Subjects?
The other people who were in the experiment 9 years ago with my brother and me. But he's blind, and I was part of the Nevada test group, so neither of us would be able to recognize the faces of the people who were on this boat.
Whoa! Time out! Junpei held his hands up. He took a deep breath and let it out. Let's just calm down for a second, okay? Start from the top. Don't start with the end, then jump to the middle. You gotta start at 1, then move to 2, and 3, and 4, and so on. If you don't tell me stuff in the right order, I'm never gonna be able to figure it out. Clover nodded. Alright, let's start with this experiment. What happened on this boat 9 years ago?
Do you know about morphagenic fields?
He did, and the realization sent chills down Junpei's spine. Alright, how about this? Theory of telepathic mechanism. Junpei recounted what Lotus had told him earlier. Clover nodded.
Telepathy, huh? Well, that's not really it, but I suppose it's similar.
So they were testing telepathy on this ship.
Yeah, I guess so.
So, what exactly did they have you guys do?
Same thing that we're doing now. Exactly the same thing.
What?
The nunnery game. 9 people were put on this boat, and 9 others were put in the building in Nevada. And the game started.
Junpei grabbed the sides of his head. Look, I'm sorry, but I don't get it. What do the nunnery game and some telepathy experiment have to do with each other? Clover bit her lip. She blinked back sudden tears. What had happened to her in Nevada?
The ability to access a morphagenic field is affected by a couple of things. The first is epiphany, and the other is danger. You know how sometimes when you're up against a really tough problem, and then the answer just kind of pops into your head? That's an epiphany. And what you learn from that epiphany can be transmitted with telepathy. When you add danger to that equation, then it gets easier to transmit that information over telepathy.
So you're saying that the nunnery game was supposed to introduce that element of danger?
Yeah, but it couldn't be just any old danger. It had to be life or death. And death. And someone did actually die. A girl.
Junpei felt a sudden grip of despair in his heart. Something deep and distant and powerful squeezed, and for a moment he felt very, very empty and alone.
She was on the boat with my brother. I was in Nevada, so I never met her, but I did hear her name. Her name was,
The sound of a door opening was like a gunshot. Junpei spun around. Oh, my apologies. I seem to have disturbed you. Ace. You two must have strong stomachs. I can't imagine how you could stay in this room for so long. Ace glanced down at the floor, at the corpse covered in blood. At any rate, Junpei, would you be so kind as to come and help me with something? I'm having a little trouble, and I could really use your assistance. Come on, it'll only take a moment. With that, he turned and walked back toward the communication office. Clover waited until he was out of sight, then spoke in a small, quiet voice.
I don't want Ace to hear us. We can talk about this later.
Huh? Hey, wait! Clover ignored him. From outside, Junpei could hear Ace calling. Junpei, what are you doing in there? Hurry up! Arg! Grumbling to himself, Junpei stomped off towards the communication office. Okay. So next is just puzzle bit. And there is a slightly altered cutscene after we leave, then it's all new from there. So I'm going to start with the slightly altered cutscene in the next episode. Bonus episode. Sorry. See you guys then.